In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the Enset to make different kinds of textures. You can do a variety of textures by making some different texturing tools, stamps, if you will. I also am going to show you how you can do some pattern stamping. And then one other thing that I want to show here is how you can actually use it for piercing through. This is sterling silver, and you can make some piercing stamps and do some patterns with those as well. So what I've done is basically made several different punches and stamps. I'll show you. They're made out of either drill rod or old beading tools or whatever I have. This one, for example, was made as a pattern stamp and was made from an old beading tool, but it's already hardened, so I did have to grind it with some diamond burrs and that. Tool rod or some kind of a tool steel that you can harden, then you can go ahead and do all of your cutting and make your texturing, and then go ahead and harden, and then of course draw them back. So I've got several different ones for either texturing or making, again, some pattern stamping. There's another little kind of a half moon for making stamping patterns. So what I'm going to do first is show you using just a rounded polished punch to give a peened look, very common texture. And I'm going to be doing all this on sterling silver. We did do several bands the other day in my friend's workshop. They wanted that peened pattern and in white gold, and it worked just fine. So what you can do is you can come in and hit it and do a very random style pattern. You can speed up, slow down. You can hit it one hit at a time if you want. You can really control your pattern or the outcome of it if that's what you prefer to do. So you can come in here, and if you want to even come over the edge, you can come in and hit it one punch. You can hit it several times in the same spot and move the metal around. So again, it's up to you, but you do have the ability to control the pattern, very easily. The next texturing punch that I have is a kind of what you would kind of like on the end of a watchmaker's hammer or riveting hammer, and actually you could use it as a small riveter too, which is basically just that wedge shape, rounded and kind of polished. And again, how you do the pattern, different angles you hold it, speeds, or randomly speeding and slowing down, holding it in one place to really make a deep line, going back and forth. You can crisscross it if you want. You can use a tool like this to kind of do a chasing line if you want. So, lots of different variations. Hold it on an angle and make different kind of marks. So you can do a lot of different things with that. And then I also made one with a lot of teeth in it, already kind of cut in. And with that one, you hold it at an angle. So you can see you can get a variety of different textures. And of course, you know, you can go back through, and after you've got a lot of texture, you can do some, you know, burnishing of highlights, and then, you know, even combinations of different. Okay, now the next one is a pattern stamp. It's a little crescent shape. I'm going to turn this the other way so you can see it better. So you can do those in, you know, one hit, go along and make a pattern that way. You could use this also as a texturing tool as well. You could come in and, you know, do something a little bit different. Now the other thing is that if you want to, and of course you can do the same thing with a hammer and a punch, but if you do it this way, you can really control your depth and stuff, make sure you get it where you want, hit it several times and go really deep or lighter, depending on, you know, again, what it is that you want, what the end result will be. Then I have this other kind of almost a Native American motif looking stamp that I made. And with some of these, you just kind of create them depending on, you know, what you might have in mind. So now with the bigger stamp, it may take a couple of hits to really get the pattern in there. Okay, but again, you can also control then how deep you want everything. And if you, that's the other thing, when you do it with a hammer, a lot of times you get a double strike, or you may end up with a, you know, like here, for example, it's a little not quite as deep as it is there, and trying to come back in and line your punch back up again with a hammer is difficult. And then, you know, hit it in the same thing and deepen it and make sure it, you know, it lines up. Makes it easier this way. And of course you can go as deep as you want. You see it doesn't bounce off. So you can make them quite deep if you want. And you can take these kind of stamps and, you know, do the other side and make a kind of a mirror reverse pattern. And then I have a little diamond shape. That you could stamp in the middle. You could do a lot of different things. I mean, you can just play around and come up with these different ideas. Again, something like this could be used for texture. You could use it by itself. You can go really deep with them. You could do something along that line. So again, it's kind of the sky's the limit on those kinds of things. And all right, so now I'm going to show you how to pierce through. This is 1/2 millimeter thick sterling silver. I made this punch from an old beading tool. I had to use diamond to grind it because it's already hardened. Of course, you don't have to do it that way. It just was, I had it laying around. You can see that you need everything to be at least straight up and down, if not coming in a little bit, so that you have some clearance so that when you can punch through. Okay, and then I do that into this. This is hard maple. It's the end grain of hard maple. It's got enough resistance. It'll give a little bit, but then it lets the piece punch through. So let's go ahead and do a couple. There. What I usually do is I start in at an angle once I have the stamp lined up where I want. And I kind of rock it back and forth as I'm pushing down, and then a little bit side to side. Just giving it, steady pressure. And you don't need, a real fast pulse rate. You can go a little faster. Now, it went through, I could feel it, and I don't know if you could hear the difference there. So there's your piece. And by the way, those can be dug out and used for overlays and things like that. If you wanted to purposely make some shapes and do the same thing just for the purpose of having them for, overlays, you could do that as well. Do another one. If you were trying to do some kind of a pattern, then you would have some layout lines. You can feel it and hear it as it comes through. So there's a second one, and let me do one in between up here. So there's a little pattern. Now, what happens then is if you're going to use the piece that you're piercing through as your, if this is a design of some kind of a pin or brooch or something like that, you have to planish this back to flatten it out. And you have, at this point, I'm just going to use a hammer that I have and just do it on the wood. It doesn't take much just to kind of knock it back. And then you have your pattern, your sanding and what have you. Then you can flatten things out even more.